What's happening now is that according to Visayas and Mornay, on March 23rd of 1994, a color and sound frequency started emanating from all the black holes in the known universe. Now, in their science, and as far as they can go back in time and check, this is the first time anything's ever come out of a black hole. And what this energy, this frequency is doing, it is creating a holographic impression over all of the dimensional levels in our known universe now, of which they say there are 11 creational densities. 11. This holograph is now a 12th. Now they say that it has one frequency. It does not carry a duality. And what it's doing, it is literally pulling all the dimensions up. Now, this is the most controversial part. They say that by December of 2013, third density, as we know it, as we know ourselves here, will cease to exist. It is imploding on itself because everything is being drawn up. Everything. Those on the 11th are going to 12, 9 to 10, etc., etc. We are supposed to go to 4th and then to 5th, like this. Now, in the Andromedan perspective, 4th density is a consciousness. It is where an entire race is telepathic with each other. They are aware of each other. They feel each other. They know each other. They are one mind. Separate, but still one. 5th density is where we're light. We literally are what we would consider on this density light. They say this is going to happen no later than 2013 based on their science. Now, do I know if it's right? I will know when you know. Okay? But they haven't been wrong yet. Okay, so what's happening now? This frequency, there are individual consciousnesses that have appeared in this density, this 12th density, this holograph. And apparently they're like nothing that's ever been seen before. They don't know who they are, what they are, or even how to describe them. But apparently they have the ability, these beings up here, to look straight down and see everything that's going on. They can look right through dimensions. That's all I know about that. Now, why is this happening? Excuse me, regress here for a second. Now, while this is happening, what's happening again is sacs are forming. People are starting to gain weight. Essences, spirits, consciousness are starting to gain weight. That's because the frequency is pulling everything up. Now, what's happening is that those energies that are regressive, and that's the best word I can use. I don't want to say negative or dark. I will say regressive. They are starting to freak out. Big time. Now, according to the Andromedans, every single one of us on this planet Earth and in 21 other star systems, okay, so we have Earth and 21 other systems. In our galaxy, I'm not talking the universe, I'm talking about our galaxy, are apparently a group of beings, individual consciousnesses, that apparently had evolved some trillions of years ago to the 11th density. And then somebody came up with a brilliant idea to drop down, to fall into the concept of time and experiment with our thoughts creating physical matter. So apparently they say that a large group of us dropped down into third density. There's a lot of this I don't understand. But what happened was when we got to here, we found a particular race, or races, that had a very specific genetic coding. Now, I know extensively about Earth, so that's all I'm going to deal with, is those of us on Earth. Apparently, what happened was Earth is at the very tail end of our galaxy. And it's along a trade route that leaves our galaxy to goes to Andromedan Galaxy. It goes to Saras, which is another one that's away from us, that apparently is visited very frequently. And what happened was we found a race that had a genetic coding of 22 different extraterrestrial races. Now, all life on this planet was brought here by traders. We're talking about extraterrestrial traders now. Explorers, miners, just those out for a joyride. There are all different scenarios, but all life was brought here. And originally, apparently, our Earth was in a different orbit. It was closer to Mars, and it was nothing but ice then. Now, what happened was the Alpha Draconans, which are a reptilian race, they are the reptilian race, and we're going to get to that as far as the hierarchy. This reptilian race are master geneticists. They just create life. They tinker with life, and all of these life forms, in their perspective, are a natural resource. Now, this is important. Okay? They look at these life forms that they've created, that they've altered, as a natural resource. Does everybody follow that? Okay. Now, apparently, they brought the primate race. They created the primate race. And it first was on Mars, and then it was brought to Earth. And this is the primate race. Now, the primate race was then tinkered with by many other different races. 21 other races, which brings it to the 22 different extraterrestrial races. Now, I know there's a lot of other conflicting information out there. Some say it was 9, some say it was 12, some say it was 11. I don't know. I'm just here to offer this, their perspective. Out of these 22 races that tinkered with this primate race, it eventually became Homo sapiens sapien, which is who we are on a physical level. Yes, we did used to have 12 strands of DNA. Yes, 10 were taken out. Those 10 apparently were taken out by a group from Orion. And the reason they were taken out, it was to control us and to hold us back. Now, why would they want to hold us back? The reason they wanted to hold us back is because of this. Somehow, some way, they found out who we were on a soul level. According to the Andromedans, we are a group of energies that they know of as the Patal. And the reason they use this word, and this is, by the way, a draconian word, is because of legends that the Draconians themselves have about warring with a group, with a race that was creating form, human form, life forms that were opposed to their philosophy. Now, the Patal apparently were creating life forms so that they could evolve on their own. Free expression, free expression, free expression. The Draconians, on the other hand, created another race, were creating races as to be a natural resource for their pleasure. So you have two very different philosophies here. Well, how they found out who we were, apparently, was our extremes in emotions. We are very, very different than all the other races. Very different. Even the Andromedans do not understand how we could hate 1 minute and then 5 minutes later be forgiving and loving and snuggly and cuddly. They don't understand it. On one trip on board one of the craft, Morane came to get me. I was brought back. Visayas was there, and he was watching a television. Well, it would look like a television. It was sitting in the middle of the room. When I walked in, there was a room just floating, a screen just floating in the middle of the room. And he was standing there watching it. And he was watching a news broadcast of something that was going on in Chicago, where a policeman had shot a black man and then had run up behind him and then tried to save his life. And Visayas just didn't have a clue why the policeman would try to take his life and then immediately rush to his aid and try to save him. And I couldn't explain it to him. Because I don't understand. I really don't know. I mean, so, they're perplexed. How we could be this incredible race and have the abilities that we have and be so hell-bent on destroying ourselves. They don't have a clue. And after having been with them for so long, even my perspective has changed a lot in that respect. None of it makes sense to me anymore. Another time I came on board, and Mornay was looking out of a window at the Earth, and he had all these meters, and he was looking at the atmosphere of the Earth, and I said, well, what is the matter? He looked very sad. And he said, don't they understand that all of this is here because they needed it? They don't understand how we can just destroy our environment. They just don't understand. It's not like we have another place to go. We don't. There's no Greyhound to Mars, well, there is, but we can't ride on it. All right. I'm skipping around a little bit because I don't really know where to go with this. We have the ability, each one of us, even though we may not feel like it, on a spiritual level, on an energy level, we can time travel, we can go forward in time, we can go backwards in time, we can literally create anything without technology. And the reason we can do that is because of our mind, because of who we are. It's because of our extremes of emotions. And according to the Andromedans, the male energy, the male portion of ourselves is the idea. It brings the thought in. It is the feminine part, the emotional part of us, that literally pulls it to us, that makes it manifest in physicality. Now, Pat and I were talking earlier, and third density is incredibly dense. A lot of extraterrestrial races don't like to hang out here because it's so dense. And the best example I can give you is that if you were to take your hand and run it through a puddle of water or a bathtub full of water like this, you would have some resistance, but you could move it through. Okay? You can move your hand through the water. They view third density as that same bathtub but full of jello. You put your hand in that jello and you try to go from one side to the other, there's a lot of resistance. That's how they view third density. And they say that proof of how awesome we really are is because of the fact that we can literally create this third density. As slow as it is, as dense as it is, our intent can literally create anything here. They can't do that without technology. They can't do it without technology. This world that we live on, according to Visayas and Mornay, each one of us helped to create. It literally is us, and we are it. We're one. We literally are one. We created this place. And they don't understand why we want to destroy it. Now, the hierarchy. There are two schools of thought, and I'm just going to deal with the galaxy, in our galaxy. There are the regressives. Okay? And I'm going to try not to repeat myself, but the regressives are races that just carry fear. They carry fear, which is why they want to control. The hierarchy of this race is a group from Alpha Draconis. According to the Andromedans, they have no idea where this race came from. Their teachings, their history, and what they've learned from other dimensional races is that somebody brought the Draconians to this universe and dumped them here. And they took them to Alpha Draconis because this was the place they had the highest chances of survival, the highest probability of survival. And according to the Andromedans, the Alpha Draconans have had space travel for 4 billion years. They're an incredible race. They're an incredible race. They've achieved great things. But they're bullies. They're jerks. And that's a judgment. And I'm taking that judgment myself. That's my judgment based on what I know about them. They don't like human beings. In their history, in their teachings, the Andromedans say that they were taught that this universe was here for them, that they were left here and told it was theirs to rule. But when they started traveling, they ran across other races. And they were able to conquer many of those races. And how they've conquered those races was through genetic altering. Now, our government, the United States government, the world government, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, wants to implant everybody. In the Andromedan perspective, that means ownership. Extraterrestrials, they can't be bothered with that stuff. Those are toys. That's not permanent. You can always lose the hand. It can always burn out. You could always die. Okay? But in extraterrestrials, they don't value gold or silver. They value genetics. So what they do is they will come in, conquer a race, and genetically alter it. And from that moment on, that race is genetically altered. And it is the genetics that they put inside these races that alters their frequency, their sound, their thought, everything about them. Everything about them is then altered if they move into a physical form. Does everybody follow that? Hello? Okay. No? Okay. Thank you. Gosh, I don't even know how to give you an example. The best example I can give you are the Greys. Apparently the Greys were much more human-looking at one time. What happened was they, as a race, were captured approximately 893,000 years ago, leaving Zeta 1, Zeta 2 to go off on their own and do their own thing. This is very common amongst other races, that they do this. This is how Earth got colonized by many different races. They were just out there exploring. Well, what happened was they got captured by a group in Orion that was already under the control and genetic manipulations of the Alpha Draconans. The Orions captured the Greys. According to Mornay, the first thing they did was they slaughtered almost all of the women. Now, the reason they do that is to control the birth process. And what they did was they started to genetically alter the women, the females of that race, so that all the children born after that were genetically altered. Does everybody understand that? They were different in some way than they were before. The men were enslaved, and they were made to work mines. They were made to do all kinds of different things. They were slaughtered, absolutely no regard for life. They were a natural resource. The Greys themselves became a natural resource. Now, the Greys, I'm told, would absolutely love to be free of this hierarchy. But what they've done is they've continued to propagate the problem. Now, we've been told that they've been here for thousands of years. According to the Andromedans, that's a lie. They got here in 1931. But because of their ability to time travel, it looks like they've been here thousands of years because they can go backwards in time. And by going backwards in time, you can literally alter the consciousness of any race. You can alter any event. And that's exactly what they've done. Now, they're not the only ones who have done this. There's a group from Sirius B that have also been tinkering with this. Now, it took me a long time to really understand why it is they wanted to do this. And the bottom line is, it was to control us. We have things that they want. Okay, we have the benefit of apparently being on 11th density. That means that we've covered a very large area of growth, of spiritual growth, of evolvement, which is why our extreme of emotions is so big. They want that information. Not only that, but now with the new frequency that's coming in and third density beginning to implode on itself, the Greys are in fact trying to save their race. According to Mornay, there are really only 2,000 real Greys left. Everything else are clones. They're robots. That's all. They're organic robots. They do not carry a life force, in essence, a spiritualness about them. They're robots. And folks, we're talking about technology thousands of years ahead of where we are now. Thousands of years. Now, the reason the Greys are doing so many abductions is one for genetics. Okay, they're trying to bring their two races together. Okay, this information is correct. The other reason is that during an abduction, stick person, okay, we all know what the energy field is, the aura. Does everybody know what the aura is? It's around everything that is alive. What they're doing is, once they've created a hybrid, the problem they're having is they can't keep it alive. And the reason they can't keep it alive is because spirit will not attach to it. The life force will not attach to it. So what they're doing is they're abducting the mothers, and according to the Andromedans, most of the hybrids are female, by the way. There are very few males. They're mostly female, because that's how you propagate the race. And in our ancient history, you know, the royal line of a family was charted through the mother, not the father, because you always know who the mother is. You don't always know who the father is. Well, what they're doing is they're peeling the vital body of the mothers, the children, which are mostly females. They're containing it. They have the ability to contain this life force. And then what they're doing is they're feeding it to the hybrids. They're feeding the vital life force of the children and the mothers to the hybrid of the same lineage. Okay, they take an egg from the mother, they create a hybrid. They come back and they take the vital bodies of the mother and the female children and they continue to feed it because they're trying to create soul. Does everybody follow that? They're trying to create a soul and they just can't do it. So they're desperate, which is why there's just so many weird things happening. I mean, that's just one of the things. You know, there's no black and white to this. This is a huge, complex, gray conspiracy within a conspiracy within a conspiracy. It's just bizarre stuff. And why we agreed to do this, I have no clue. So what's happening is this is not working. So the races are dying. Now, what the Greys have actually done, because they're having problems here, is they have been abducting children, and many of the children are, like, not here anymore. This is why children are disappearing all over the world. They are vanishing without a trace. Some of them are being taken by the Greys. Westchester County, New York, the last 3 years, 5,000 children have vanished without a trace. Without a trace. The government knows what's going on, but they're harmless. They can't do any. They're helpless to do anything about it. And the reason they don't want to bring it up is because they let the bastards in here in the first place. They cut a deal. They cut a deal. They sold us out. And I got a lot of energy on it. Because I have friends who want to know where their kids are. Now, this is just one scenario. Apparently we've been manipulated for 5,724 years now. We have been manipulated. Beyond belief, we've been manipulated. To make matters worse, we've had technology, free energy technology, that has been withheld from us. So in the last 100 years, we have totally trashed our environment. Now, there's so much. I'm glad we have 3 hours. Okay, we'll look at the positives. There are so many that really want to help. But if those of you who are Trekkies, you know the number one rule. You do not intervene with an evolving race unless you're asked. That happens to be a reality. They will not directly intervene, or they're not supposed to, unless they are specifically asked. Now, those people who are contactees, they have a lineage, a reincarnational lineage that leads back to many of these positive races, which is why it is not considered intervention. Does everybody follow? Now, in our galaxy, there are many different councils. And I don't know everything about all those other councils, but I do know about the Andromedan Council. And the Andromedan Council is a group of beings from 139 different races, star systems, that come together and discuss what's going on. It's like a galactic United Nations, except it's not a political body. They literally get together and they discuss what's going on. Now, what they've really recently been discussing has been the tyranny that's in our future, 350 years from now, because that affects everybody. So apparently what they have done through time travel is they've been able to figure out where the significant shift in energy occurred that causes the tyranny 357 years into our future. And they've traced it back to our solar system. And in our solar system, they've been able to break it down, and they've traced it back to Earth, the Moon, and Mars. Those 3 places. Okay? Now, the very first meeting the Andromedan Council had was to whether or not to directly intervene with what was going on here. Now, according to Mornay, there were only 78 systems that met for the first time. Of the 78, just short of half decided they wanted nothing to do with us at all, regardless of the problems we had and the intervention. And I think it's really important that you know why they did this. Now, we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, star systems that are hundreds of millions of light years away from us. Even some who have never even met us, have never met any of you. But they just know the vibration of the planet, because the vibration of the planet is a reflection of the vibration of the beings on it. These were their reasons for not wanting to do anything to help us. Number one, they don't respect themselves, they don't respect each other, and they don't respect their home. What is their value? Now let's talk about us. I was pretty depressed. Fortunately, a better portion of 50% thought that because of we have been manipulated for 5,724 years, that we deserved an opportunity to at least prove ourselves, to at least have a shot at proving the less than 50% right. So, the Andromedan Council has passed a directive. I don't know how they're going to carry it out, but they have ordered all extraterrestrial presences, whether they're benevolent or not, off our planet no later than August 12th, 2003. They want everything that's ET in the planet, on the moon, out of here. And the reason is they want to see how we're going to react and act with each other when we're not being manipulated. And folks, you are being manipulated. We are all being manipulated. And my first suggestion to you, if you want to do something about it, is to throw your televisions away. And I can't tell you how sincere I am about that. Because they're teaching you what to think and not how to think. And the minute you give that up, you become a robot. You become sheeple. We become sheeple. And I know it's going to be tough. It's going to be really hard.